after Senator Cotton asks his questions. Senator Cotton.
Thank you, Mr. Zatko, for your very informative testimony this morning. I want to start with some questions about Twitter's censorship policies. I know you weren't at Twitter for most of 2020, but I want to start with an example from June of 2020, specifically me. As left-wing street militias were rioting and looting in our streets, I posted on the website that the National Guard and even the active duty military have been used to stop such rioting in the past, most recently in 1992 in the LA riots. Within a couple hours, a low-level employee at Twitter's Washington office contacted my staff and said that if I did not delete that tweet, that my account would be permanently locked. My staff worked with this low-level employee, calling her on several occasions because she seemed very reluctant to put anything in writing in an email. They documented the accuracy of my comment and gave examples of how other elected officials had used similar language. The 30-minute window passed. My account was not locked. Ultimately, she said that Twitter would not take any action about my account. As I said, I know it was before you began at Twitter, but from your experience, would a low-level Twitter employee typically have the authority to permanently lock the account of an elected member of Congress?
From my experience, they should not have the authorization to do it, although it would probably be a low-level employee that would be instructed to do it.
So she was likely taking direction from more senior officials at the company.
Not knowing the situation, I can't comment on the specific one, but that is the sort of activity that I would see there. And I can concur that I did notice a reluctance to put a lot of things in writing on particular topics.
I noticed that in the emails that Mr. Agarwal sent to you, he seemed very reluctant to put things in writing or made statements about what he was going to verbally express to the board. And he apparently did not express those things. Sticking with the censorship, again, like I said, I know you weren't there in the lead up to the 2020 election, but once you arrived just a couple days after the election, you selected an outside company to do an evaluation of Twitter's censorship policies. The report that you commissioned found that Twitter's content controls are ad hoc and informal. Those are two direct quotes. And the policy decisions behind it are made mostly by a small group of Twitter staff at San Francisco, quote, frequently during a time of crisis. Is that accurate?
I didn't hire them to do a report on censorship, but that was the platform manipulation organization. And yes, how you cite the report as what they found on that team is correct.
When it says frequently in a time of crisis, what kind of crisis was the report referring to?
I believe the report also said, and this is from what I experienced, if something was brought up in the media, if a government brought it up, if somehow it became publicly aware, or if there was, an ongoing outage to the system or some active disruption or crisis.
Yeah, thank you for that, because the report does go on to say that according to Twitter employees interviewed, Twitter usually censors information, quote, only if it is flagged by reporters or news headlines, partners, which it means to include academic organizations and other social media companies or political officials, end quote. So does Twitter have special channels of communication with fellow social media companies like Facebook to discuss so-called misinformation?
If they do, I believe that they would be ad hoc. I am not aware of official ones that would not have been within my organizations.
Okay, what about other so-called partners like pharmaceutical companies or advocacy groups?
I am not aware of those. Again, that would be out of council or other organizations.
So saying ad hoc, you think in these cases, just say a executive at a pharmaceutical company that doesn't like what's being posted on the website, or a left-wing activist at a Washington think tank would just use pre-existing relationships to contact someone at Twitter on an ad hoc basis?
I do not know.
Well, how can they coordinate if they don't have some kind of channel of communication set up?
In the report that was an attachment from the organization, they talked about disinformation operations, which I do believe, my understanding was that the site integrity team spoke with other organizations and with other social media companies about ongoing disinformation or platform manipulation. I do not know anything beyond what was in the report for that topic.
You said something earlier I just want to come back to. This isn't an exact quote, but I want to give you a chance to elaborate a little bit. It was something along the lines of, if you don't have a foreign intelligence officer inside Twitter, you probably aren't doing a very good job as an intelligence agency. Is that close enough?
Yeah, that's close enough, sir. I worked for the government. I held a high-level position. I worked running research and development and programs for the Department of Defense and intelligence communities. And from my interactions with these people and these organizations, Twitter would be a gold mine. From my understanding, from people in the community who focus on foreign intelligence organizations and assets, if you placed somebody in Twitter, as I believe that, as we know has happened, it would be very difficult to Twitter to find them. They would probably be able to stay there for a long period of time and gain a significant amount of information to provide back on either targeting people or on information as to Twitter's decisions and discussions and to the direction of the company.
And does that include in Twitter's U.S. offices versus overseas, or is that distinction immaterial given the way Twitter functions?
I believe that's immaterial in both.
Thank you.
My pleasure, sir.
Thank you, Senator Cotton. We're going to take a 5-minute break and return to Senator Whitehouse.